arrival in the sands. March 5, 1942. The scorching sun beat down relentlessly as our convoy rumbled across the arid expanse of North Africa. The sand was a relentless, unending sea, stretching out in every direction, shimmering with heat waves that distorted the horizon. We had just arrived from Europe, and the change was jarring, a brutal reminder of the harshness of this foreign theater of war. Our unit, part of the famed Afrika Korps, had been deployed to reinforce Rommel's campaign against the British forces. I remember the first sight of our new home, a series of camouflaged outposts and tents dotted across the dunes, seemingly insignificant in the vastness of the desert. The desert was not forgiving. It was a land where survival itself was a constant battle, and our equipment tanks and trucks struggled with the unforgiving terrain. My own Panzer IV, battered and scarred from previous engagements, seemed to sink into the sands with every turn of the wheels. The initial days were spent acclimating to the harsh conditions. The heat was stifling, and water quickly became more precious than gold. We established our positions, dug in, and set up defensive perimeters, all while trying to adjust to the unrelenting heat and blinding sun. Despite the hardship, there was a sense of purpose. We had been sent to achieve a crucial objective: break through the British lines and secure strategic positions that would tip the balance in favor of Axis forces. Rommel had a reputation for audacity and brilliance, and we were here to support his bold plans. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply, a stark reminder of the desert's merciless nature. We gathered around our makeshift campfires, sharing stories and rations. The camaraderie among the men was palpable, a vital source of strength in the face of the desert's oppressive conditions. Chapter 2: Clash of Titans. April 10th, 1942. The sound of artillery fire echoed across the desert as we prepared for our first major engagement. The British had fortified their positions, and our objective was to breach their defenses and secure a vital supply route. The ground was a chaotic mix of smoke and dust as our tanks advanced, the thunder of gunfire punctuating the air. I took command of my Panzer IV, maneuvering through the dunes with practiced precision. The British forces were formidable, their tanks and anti-tank guns presenting a significant challenge. The clash was brutal. Our tanks exchanged fire with British Matildas, their armor tough but not impervious. We used every tactic in our playbook: flanking maneuvers, direct assaults, and the sheer weight of our armored columns. The desert became a battleground of dust and fire, where survival depended on speed, skill, and unwavering resolve. During the heat of the battle, I watched as one of our tanks was hit and exploded in a fiery eruption. The crew, brave men who had fought beside me, were lost in an instant. The loss was a harsh reminder of the fragility of life in this relentless theater of war. Despite the carnage, we pressed on. The British defenses were eventually breached, and we secured our objective. The victory was hard-won, a testament to our determination and the tactical brilliance of Rommel. But the cost was high, and the desert seemed to absorb every ounce of our victory with its endless expanse. Chapter 3: The Strain of Command. May 15th, 1942. The constant pressure of command weighed heavily on me. I had been promoted to squad leader after the loss of my former commander, and the responsibility was both an honor and a burden. The desert was unforgiving, and every decision I made could mean life or death for my men. The days were a blur of tactical maneuvers and logistical challenges. We were constantly on the move, shifting positions to stay ahead of the British and secure key supply routes. The heat and dust were relentless, sapping our strength and morale. One evening, as I reviewed our position reports, I received troubling news. Intelligence suggested that the British were planning a counter-offensive. The prospect of another major battle was daunting. We had already sustained heavy losses, and the prospect of more fighting was grim. I gathered my squad for a briefing, their faces etched with fatigue and determination. I could see the strain in their eyes, the unspoken fears of what lay ahead. I tried to offer words of encouragement, but the truth was, we were all weary and apprehensive. The desert had a way of magnifying our struggles, turning every setback into a crisis of confidence. Yet, we had no choice but to press on. Rommel's strategies relied on our ability to hold the line and continue the offensive. The survival of the Afrika Korps and our own lives depended on our resilience and adaptability. Chapter 4. A Brief Respite. June 20th, 1942. For a brief moment, the battle subsided and we were granted a rare opportunity for rest. The front lines were quiet and we took advantage of the lull to recover and regroup. The desert, though still harsh, seemed almost serene in its stillness. We set up camp near an old, abandoned village, its ruins a stark reminder of past conflicts. The men were able to relax for the first time in weeks, catching up on sleep and tending to our equipment. The reprieve was welcome, though the threat of renewed combat was always looming. During this time, I had a chance to reflect on the experiences of the past few months. The brutality of the desert warfare had taken its toll on us all, but moments of camaraderie and shared experiences helped to bolster our spirits. We gathered around the fire, sharing stories and laughter, trying to find solace in each other's company. I also took time to write letters home, attempting to convey the reality of the situation without causing undue concern. The letters were a personal escape, a way to hold on to a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of war. Chapter 5. The Desert Awakens. July 15th, 1942. The silence was shattered by the roar of engines and the rattle of gunfire. The British counter-offensive had begun, and the desert was once again a theater of violence and chaos. We quickly mobilized, preparing to defend our positions and repel the British advance. The battle was fierce, the desert floor erupting in dust and fire as tanks clashed and artillery roared. I took my place in the thick of the action, maneuvering my Panzer IV to support our lines and repel the enemy. The combat was intense and unforgiving. The British forces were well organized and determined, their counter-offensive a testament to their resilience and strategic prowess. We fought with everything we had, but the desert seemed to conspire against us, turning every engagement into a grueling test of endurance. By nightfall, the battle had reached a stalemate. We had managed to hold our positions, but the cost was evident. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of tanks and the bodies of fallen soldiers. The desert, once again, had claimed its toll.